For those that are not aware of what scoliosis is, it is a deformity in the spine that makes it curve into the shape of an S, backwards S, a C, or a backwards C. School nurses give children scoliosis tests during their gym classes, but what some people don't know is that you can actually give your children these tests at home. It's just a simple bending forward and seeing if the spine is even or not, and then it's done. But in order to make this a good and reliable test, you must have a keen eye and looking for these humps in the back to see if the spine is curving. I was diagnosed at 11 years old with scoliosis. The gym teacher took us to the school nurse to get our scoliosis checks, but the nurse did not check off that I had it and did not send a paper home. It wasn't until my mother noticed, when I bent down, a hump on my back. After that, the scoliosis had grown so severe that I had to be put in a back brace for 3 years, 23 hours a day, only 1 hour out of it, which was to take a shower. Children and adults suffer from scoliosis. Adults, because it's possible that when they were children, they never had their scoliosis treated, so throughout that time, their spine had been curving. Ways to give your child a at-home scoliosis check is to have them stand in front of you, and you can see in their posture if they're standing sideways or not. But the most common one that you can do, which is what the school nurses do, is have them bend forward as if they're trying to touch their toes, lift their shirt up so you may see the back, and get down, crouch into the eye level, and see if there's a hump. If it's in the shape of an S, there's going to be 2 humps on each side. If it's in the shape of a C, there's going to be 1 hump on one side. And if for some reason you feel like your eyes aren't reliable enough or you can't see very well, you can always smooth your hand forward and back to feel for any of the unevenness. Shoulder and arm length is also another way that you can check, because when your spine curves, your shoulders become unbalanced. So when your shoulder is curved over, one arm is going to be longer than the other. Girls are actually diagnosed with scoliosis 3 to 4 more times than boys, which is because girls, in a way, grow faster and their bones mature a lot faster. So when they're growing and they're maturing, their scoliosis gradually gets worse. Boys grow a little slower, so it doesn't get as bad. Other screenings that would require doctors are x-rays, so they can take a picture basically of your spine and do any measurements of any curvatures that they see. MRIs are good for progression. If you see that you have scoliosis in an x-ray, the MRI will track the progression to see if it's increasing or decreasing, or if the growing has halted, so the spine will not curve as much. A Moyer topography is used to measure the sagittal curve in the spine. And then there's also something called a scoliometer, which is basically something that you put on your back and it checks the level. And if it's off level, then it's more than likely you have an issue with your spine and it's not straight. It is detrimental to catch scoliosis in the early stages. If you catch it, basically as soon as it starts curving, then you increase the chances of living a life without pain and possible mobility issues. Bracing is only considered successful when the spine hasn't curved more than 5 degrees in the duration of bracing. So if your spine is curving while you're in the brace, it's failed. Other ways that you can treat scoliosis is biofeedback and electrostimulation for the muscles. And there's also physical therapy and chiropractic work, although it's not recommended to do physical therapy and chiropractic work at the same time, because PT is for strengthening the muscles and chiropractic work is for adjusting the bones. And if all else fails, the next step would be a spinal fusion, which they take 2 titanium rods, a piece of your bone, and they fuse the titanium rods to your spine, therefore correcting the curve completely. When it gets to 45 degrees, that's when scoliosis really becomes dangerous. And when it gets that dangerous, it becomes harder to live a normal life. For example, whenever I had reached to the point where I had to get a spinal fusion. My lungs were being compressed against my ribs, so it was very hard for me to breathe. Kids will probably need homeschooling after they get their surgery. They may need to learn to walk again, and their actions are limited. So something as easy as putting a sock on in the morning is actually really hard. And back pain sometimes develops after the surgery. Even though that's why you got the surgery to begin with, it still may or may not develop. In conclusion, regular scoliosis checks on your children are so important, and to do them at least once a week would be enough as it is to be able to avoid the physical and psychological pain. These persistent scoliosis checks will help your children live optimally a better quality of life. So, give your kids regular scoliosis checks.